Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over the new update that just got announced with passive Exile Scourge League, basically buffing the rewards, which is really awesome. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So first off, they mentioned in kind of two different ways. There's the problem and there's the solution. So first off, the problem is that it's too difficult to create enough Scourge maps to engage with the content as much as players wanted to. So basically this is the mechanic where you'd have a map that you would incubate, and over time you'd be able to get these Scourge tiers. When you would upgrade these Scourge tiers, you would see the text in the orange, they would be modified. But a lot of people didn't want to do it at tier 1. They would want to go to, of course, max tier. You want to get as many rewards as possible. Some of these can be quite difficult, and they are going to be kind of addressing some of the issues with this as far as like the rewards to the difficulty as well. But some of these are actually pretty deadly. You can just start taking a massive amount of damage through several different ways. One of them that was pretty interesting, and if you guys didn't know how the league mechanic works, it's that little blood thing that would try to fill up over in the top right. Once that's filled up to halfway, you can activate it and go into nightmare mode, which basically starts increasing the difficulty, but you would technically have a chance to get better rewards. Now, with some of these map modifiers, they can be pretty crazy. Like this one over here, just take physical damage equal to life plus the energy shield per second per 1% in the blood crucible. Some of these can be quite difficult. Other ones will just make it so you will shift into nightmare form without actually controlling it. So you could be in the middle of doing something and you get displaced because the enemies kind of swap up, although you do get a nice little stun when you kind of swap into the previous non-nightmare form, like the regular map. But that is something that can be there, that you definitely do need to read the orange text. Don't just look for, oh, does it have reflect whatever damage I'm trying to do? Make sure that you do actually read the Scourge modifiers, because it will actually make a huge difference. But that's the first thing that we're going to go ahead and go over. And so what they're doing for the solution is to make it a lot easier to get these maps up to more corruption. So it's going to require approximately 50% less corruption to be transformed. So basically, you're going to be able to upgrade your tiers much faster for specifically the map. So overall, I would say that's going to be a buff, and most people will be very excited about that. Now, there's another thing that they mentioned for the problem, that there's not enough incentive to facing the difficulty of staying inside the nightmare for extended periods of time. So they've doubled the item quantity and item rarity bonuses granted by the exposed to corruption debuff, and have removed diminishing returns from it. So I would say overall, people are going to be happy about this. In terms of the league mechanic, I'll go over my thoughts on it, but I just want to go over the new patch notes first. The other thing that they mentioned as a problem, that Scourge maps are not rewarding enough into proportion of the level of risk they pose. So like I said, I've already showed you guys the maps, but it's mostly that the items wouldn't really have a high chance to be something that I could just pick up and be relatively good off. The gameplay, I'm not using this because I recorded this early on. This is just early on in the maps over here, but I eventually got this item over here. It's a 6-linked Hope Shredder bow, and has a tier 3 Scourge modifier. So it has increased cold damage, just flat amount of cold damage added, but I can't deal chaos damage. I don't deal chaos damage, so there's no real downside here. There are these different Scourge tiers, and you can upgrade your Scourge tiers, and sometimes you can get something that completely bricks your item. There's things where it's you cannot deal, let's say, cold damage, or you cannot crit at all, but you get some sort of benefit, or it'll be -2 resistances in one area, but buff another set of resistances. So some of these modifiers, they won't affect your character at all, but it's kind of just random. But there are lots of different tools to modify corrupted items. What I'm basically using this for is, in terms of league mechanics, I was really only using it for stitched wounds, which a lot of people are using, which you get a 5-linked 6-socketed item, and you basically have a 15% chance to link the sockets to make it a 6-link, and it's basically an easier way to get divines. That's what I've been using the league mechanic for. In terms of just buying items that are pre-scored, you can do that as well, but I'd say it's kind of hard to really just pick up an item that's really good, and they're kind of addressing that in one way. So one thing that they are also doing to the mechanic over here for the league is they're going to increase the rewards from Scourge maps. So what it comes down to is the Scourge maps can no longer generate some of these modifiers: quantity, rarity, pack size, and experience. The existing maps with these modifiers can be upgraded, but they will get the additional item types from rare Scourge monsters, and then due to the absence of the other modifiers, these have become a lot more common. Basically, you're just going to get more rewards, but also Scourge map modifiers that cause more rare Scourge monsters to drop additional currency items now drop 2 additional. So overall, again, these are all just straight up buffs to make the league mechanic more incentivizing. And then on top of that, it's difficult to get these pre-Scourge items. This is one thing that I've been really mentioning. A lot of times people are just getting unique items to try to get like the bonuses to be even further. Like I'll explain that in a second. But the solution to what they've showed off as the problem, the solution is to dramatically increase the tier of the Scourge modifiers on pre-Scourged items. So those Scourge items where I showed you guys where you'd have like the tiers to it, here's an example of one item over here. The Himsoro gloves, usually people want it for that 50% of physical damage converted to cold damage. It's basically a conversion. You can get a modifier that will actually do fizz to cold as the orange, but you would still keep all the modifiers. It's basically adding more implicits onto unique items, which can further incentivize you for that specific unique of getting, you can get even more physical to cold conversion on top of the 50%, and then you can go off the tree in the very beginning and have that like physical to cold of 40%. Then you get 100% without really having to get, let's say, like a Watcher's Eye, because those can get pretty pricey if you want like that plus additional like cold damage while affected by an aura or something like that. So it definitely does help out. But I was thinking one thing that would be really cool, and I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts on this, because now I want to get into the kind of the subjectives and my thoughts on this league. In terms of the rewards, I did the league mechanic early on because it was new. I want to experience the league mechanic. But as I got to maps, I stopped trying to get an item to be like, oh, I'm going to hope I get this really cool item to roll really well. Because the thing is that I've been, again, and what a lot of people have been doing is just using it for the stitched wounds, which is giving you that ability to link. And again, depending on the item's like level, you can actually modify it up to tier 3. So you'd have, let's say, 3 chances of a 15% to get a 6 link, right, on and that's granted that it's not giving you that extra link and it's not removing an extra link. But there's a chance to get a Divine Orb off of it, or you can just sell whatever 6-link item. I've been doing that as well. Just selling a random 6-link items for like anywhere from like 8 to 12C, just like, you know, real quick currency conversion. And that's what I've been kind of using the league mechanic for. But in terms of doing other things with the league, like trying to roll, I mean, it's basically like a Vault Orb that has less of a chance to completely brick the item because you can modify it again, right? You can go into like several different times depending on what the item is. So I like that. I think the league mechanic is fun, but it's more so, I would say, oriented towards like the end game versus like the early game. Early game, what I was using the league mechanic for was a lot of just small items that were like white, and I would throw it in, and then I would just kind of roll on it hoping that it just becomes yellow. And that was nice for leveling, but I would say that was only in like maybe Act 1 where I was doing that, pretty much not really doing the league mechanic because it slowed down my progression to get to maps. So I would say they need to make like the earlier stages of the Scourge league mechanic a little bit better, because at the end of the day it felt like I was just getting a free essence, which, you know, essences are great. You just get a ring that would have just any like small amount of damage and just like throw it on there and just see what you could roll on it. So I would say that earlier game they need to incentivize the players to do the league mechanic unless they want to keep it the way it is, because again, it just slows down your progression to get to maps where you'd actually be able to get these good modifiers on the Scourge mechanic, if that kind of makes any sense. Also, it's just better to get to maps in my opinion. It's just going to make it a lot easier. There's one right there that I just converted to a 6-link that I'm going to sell to this player. Again, that's what I've been using the league mechanic for. One thing I think that would be cool is because a lot of people have just turned off those items that would drop with the Scourge link. And here's an example of something that I ended up just buying this off of someone else. I didn't like craft. This is a 6-link Hope Shredder, and this is pretty awesome, right? But a lot of people have been turning off the items that would just drop. I mean, it's cool. I've not seen one unique drop that is scourged. Maybe they can add having unique items be pre-scourged. That would be kind of interesting as well, because a lot of times uniques maybe have more incentivization to be at least worth some sort of currency. But I think that would be a cool change. Or I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. If they made it so you can have like tier 5 scourged be only as a drop, though. You cannot like, you know, keep on rolling the scourge. You can't like incubate the item in hopes that you eventually do get. Like I said, I've been doing this on a lot of uniques that some people people would maybe be interested in using, like, you know, Rat's Nest, Archondra, just like things that I've been picking up that I normally would maybe sell for like 1 CI. I'm like, throw in the incubator, let's see what we get. And I think that that is fun, but again, that's more towards the end of the game versus like earlier on. So it'd be cool to see if the higher tier of Scourge items could be dropped maybe earlier on. But again, it'd be cool to see maybe tier 5 or like crazy, like tier 6 could maybe roll like really, really high numbers, but they can only be as drops. That way it would incentivize people to actually look at the stuff that drops, because a lot of times, again, I've seen a lot of people just turn off the Scourged drops, as in, not like the items that like the tainted orbs of fusing or the different currency items, but I'm talking about the items that would roll with it, because it's just so hard to get exactly, you know, what you'd want. But if it's a higher tier, maybe that would incentivize people. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know, guys, how you feel about the League mechanic. I like it towards the end game. It's fun. It's just like basically, again, throwing in a Vol Orb and seeing what you're getting. But anyways, if you guys do want this build, like you're just like, what's this build he's playing? I eventually end up going Tornado Shot, but like we start off as Lightning Arrow, then I go to Ice Shot. It's just because of the way the progression works. It's more, I guess, optimal to play it like in Lightning Arrow for me personally, first for clear speed, and then Ice Shot obviously for the freeze is quite nice, and then eventually we get Brittle, and then we do massive amounts of crit. But anyways, if you guys do want the build, I have a full guide that gets you all the way started from Act 1 all the way to maps at the moment. Then we'll do like a full like end game, really expensive non-budget build guide for it. But anyways, that'll be pinned down below in case any of you guys want to check it out. But let me know your guys' thoughts on the new buffs. I would say overall, these are all straight up buffs, and I would say most people are going to be happy about that. I don't think anyone would be upset that they're going to be having the items dropped at tier 3. However, if there is a 6-socketed, 5-linked item that's already tier 3, I can't throw it in my incubator. So technically, for some people, they could argue it's a nerf, but I haven't gotten anything insane that I've sold for several exalts yet off of just like the drop of it already being Scourged. But maybe as I progress with like influence items, I mean, it'd be crazy to get maybe a double influence item and then throw it in, but that's like super expensive. But that's the part of PoE that makes it exciting, is like rolling those random things onto expensive items, then it bricks, and then that's worth nothing. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here and do want to see more content, hit subscribe, turn that bell, and you'll definitely see more very soon. Take care. I'll catch you in the next video, and I'm out. Peace.